Alright everyone, we start off today talking about Kansas, and their primary ballot, of course, included a question to the voters of Kansas. Will we amend the Constitution of Kansas, allowing abortion to be banned or strictly curtailed? That was defeated as a measure, and it wasn't even close. It was almost a 60-40 vote. And this is Kansas, so this is a state that's reasonably religious. It leans fairly heavily towards the red. It's a GOP state. And really it shows perhaps the disconnect between the remnant moralist evangelical side of the GOP, which I believe is overstretching and it's not really helpful politically in a strategic sense, as opposed to more the general populist, mainly economic platform that we see. To be clear, as someone who is pro-choice, I applaud the decision. The state constitution takes supremacy there. And this is actually what the GOP argued for. For decades and decades, the concept of ending Roe v. Wade or curtailing it more was based largely, it wasn't really based on moral principles. There are groups that say, well, you know, it's a life, you're killing babies. That's usually more on the sidelines, though, outside of the evangelicals who clearly they're spoken for politically. Mostly it's been about, hey, Roe v. Wade overstretched. It's not legal. This Supreme Court decision takes the really roundabout approach to creating an implied right under the Constitution. It's not explicit. It's not directly implied at all. It's basically equal protection somehow applies to abortion rights. And it was never a tenable position. It was never a legal position. Now, after 50 years of precedent, finally gone. You can be, as I am, pro-choice while recognizing the obvious shortcomings of Roe v. Wade. There is a case right now, by the way, I will point out, I think it was in Texas, where they're trying to use the Fourth Amendment, actually, which I believe is far more wise, specifically the idea of medical privacy to prop up the right to abortion, or at least the right not to be headhunted after should you go to another state for one. Should you seek one and it's considered medical necessity, even though hush-hush, it's really not. It's obtained. And then, of course, you know, the idea is that under medical privacy laws, you're not supposed to be able to disclose that material to an interrogative government entity, a state government entity that would seek to persecute someone for obtaining an abortion. I support these efforts, again, and that'll piss off part of the audience, but you know, I've been pretty consistent on this particular belief for a number of years. I believe that abortion should be safe and available in the first trimester. I believe if a woman's right is life is in danger, clearly it should be legal. There are some states that appear to not even care about that, and I think that that's rather regrettable, even if you only look at it from the strategic standpoint. One of the biggest advantages the GOP has had over the last year is that the left has moved far, far, far left on the issue of abortion. So it went from, hey, we want it to be safe and legal. We're talking about, you know, a 20-week limit or 16 weeks or whatever. They went from something that the majority of the population supported to Ralph Northam land. So they said, well, yeah, technically speaking, it's already been born. You can still abort it, and that's okay. You know, there's something wrong. Its head was twisted around a little bit. Maybe it's retarded, so we're just going to bludgeon it and kill it or something. Yeah, it's okay if you have a third trimester abortion. It's perfectly fine. Yes, it's viable, but it's okay for us to kill it instead of simply delivering it through cesarean section, even though it is perfectly viable and likely to survive outside of the womb. The left went completely apeshit on this issue, and in response to that, and this is partially the reason Roe v. Wade died, in response to that, some red states went in the other direction. Now, an 8-week abortion ban, again, while I think that is too limited, is not outside of the realm, even within most of the world, most of the developed world. The left responded by suing, thus leading to Dobbs, thus leading to the death of Roe v. Wade. They should have known better. It's self-inflicted. It's really their problem. But Kansas has a provision within its constitution that is construed as protecting abortion specifically. This is a state constitution, and the GOP argued for state supremacy as its main issue with regards to the ending of Roe v. Wade. So it's time for them to understand that if the states do take the fore on the issue, there will be plenty of states where it remains legal. There will be various regulations associated with it. There will be different lengths of time it's available. In the end, if the medical privacy provision that's being considered in the courts is upheld, whether it goes to SCOTUS or not, if it's just upheld more generally, you're going to get a situation where you can't stop a person from going across state lines to get an abortion. This means that this will, effectively what it'll do is it'll drag states that tend to be more red and more abortion reluctant towards at least having basic legality. And it will be a general consensus sort of thing. It will be more on par with what you get in the rest of the developed world. Again, most of the developed world does not allow third trimester abortions on demand. Unless a woman is clearly going to die unless she has that specific procedure, it's illegal in most of Europe, the Bernie Sanders land. It's illegal in the developed parts of East Asia. It's illegal basically everywhere. About the only nations in which they're more permissive in general than some parts of the U.S. right now are Canada and Australia, actually. And that's the left's fault for overstretching to that degree. The average American does not want third trimester abortions. It is an overwhelming supermajority that opposes it. But the right to seek an abortion before the term of viability, especially if the woman's life is in danger, is something that also a supermajority of Americans do support. I'm not surprised that this was basically a 60-40 decision. And keep in mind, we're looking forward to a day of primary results. We've got Arizona, we've got Michigan, we've got all of these other states. Washington is still up in call. Some of those races are speculated, they've basically been called. It looks like the MAGA crowd has won at least 3 of the 6 big ones, with all of the others up in the air. It looks like I think Butler might actually pull it off and end up proceeding through the jungle primary there. Otherwise, it looks pretty positive for MAGA, and this wasn't even really tied to it. Now, this is more of a Kansas issue. Again, the GOP suggested devolving the issue to the states. It got devolved to the state of Kansas. They attempted to insinuate that they should rewrite their constitution in part in order to ban abortion or to strictly curtail it, and the people of Kansas didn't want that. If Kansas, again, which is reasonably religious and reasonably red, defeats the measure by a 60-40 ratio, I would not expect similar measures in other states where the Constitution is construed as protecting abortion generally to prevail. This actually is great for the GOP, by the way. Just to be clear, the fact that this happened and comports, again, to the majority view of people within the GOP that it is effectively a state-level issue, not federal, is a good thing. It takes pressure off, by the way, in the wake of Roe v. Wade ending during the midterms. The Democrats can't say, look at those evil Kansas voters. Now, they hate women. They want them barefoot and in the kitchen, pregnant with 5 kids behind them. Well, they're not going to be able to campaign on that now, are they? I think that that's somewhat helpful. So yeah, Kansas has upheld the right to abortion in their state by a considerable majority. I'm not sure that any amount of campaigning is really going to reverse that decision in the future. Some people are saying, well, yeah, but after the midterms when the GOP sweeps, we'll do it anyway. It's not necessarily the case that there's any legal methodology by which you can do that. This was a ballot measure allowing the Constitution to be amended. It's not clear that any judge is going to be able to step in unilaterally and hazard the right to choose in the state of Kansas. That's about all. Peace out.